Shalom and welcome to Jerusalem Studio. According to all recent surveys, anti-Semitism is on the rise in many countries across the Western world. Distinct from the more remote past, this time around anti-Semitism is mixed with sentiments of anti-Zionism. During today's program, we will analyze the root of this phenomenon, and to do so, I'm joined here in the studio by Ambassador Dani Ayalon, who is Israel's former Deputy Foreign Minister and Ambassador to the United States. Welcome.
Thank you.
I'd like also to welcome our TV7 analyst, Mr. Amir Oren, and Advocat Calev Myers, who is the Deputy President of the International Association of Jewish Lawyers and Jurists. Welcome.
Thank you. I think that, today there are many people in the world, including Jewish people, who say that I am an anti-Zionist but not anti-Semitic. So the question is that possible? I think that we actually have to define three terms. There's anti-Zionism, there's anti-Semitism, and there's legitimate criticism of Israel. I, as an Israeli, many times criticize the policies of my own government. Does that make me an anti-Zionist? No, because if we say every criticism of Israel equals anti-Semitism or anti-Zionism, then everything is anti-Semitism, and if everything's anti-Semitism, nothing is anti-Semitism. So it's very important. At what point does legitimate criticism of Israel become anti-Zionism, which is anti-Semitism in my opinion? At the point where criticism of Israel becomes obsessive, when it becomes a fixation, when it becomes the greatest evil on planet Earth, to the extent that many terrible other things that are happening in the world are completely ignored by the Human Rights Council of the United Nations, etc. When the legal settlement of Jews in the West Bank is declared as the greatest crime on planet Earth, and the illegal occupation of the Crimean Islands and of Western Sahara and of North Cyprus is completely ignored. So when it becomes obsessive criticism, at that point you say, wait a second, this is a double standard. Right? So why is the Jewish state condemned in a way that is according to a standard that's not applied to anyone else? And when it comes to anti-Zionism, first of all, we have to ask, what is Zionism? Zionism, I believe, the most basic definition of Zionism is the right of the Jewish people to national self-determination. So if you believe that you're anti-Zionist, which means you don't believe that the Jews have the right to national self-determination, but you believe that the Palestinians have the right to national self-determination, then you're definitely an anti-Semite because you apply, again, an unequal standard. The only situation in which I would say somebody who says, I'm anti-Zionist but not anti-Semitic is somebody who doesn't believe that any unique people group should have the right to national self-determination. If nobody has that right, and for that reason the Jews don't have it either, and therefore I'm an anti-Zionist but not an anti-Semite, I could maybe agree to that, but I don't hear anybody arguing that today. Most people would say that the Palestinians have a right to national self-determination.
Mr. Owen?
I would agree 100% with what my colleagues have said here, and Ambassador Ayalon made an excellent point regarding a double standard. If one is to say today that the existence of a Jewish state is completely illegitimate, but they don't say that the existence of Pakistan as an Islamic state or Iran or Saudi Arabia is equally illegitimate, then obviously there's a double standard, and obviously that's an anti-Semitic statement. And so, but unfortunately, it's also true that many times, many of the strongest advocates of anti-Zionism are either Israelis in the diaspora or Jewish communities abroad, which is really a shame because they're fueling the fire of anti-Semitism. I think it's an excellent point that the Zionist movement started decades before the Holocaust. And it's important today that not to compare every act of anti-Semitism to the Holocaust, because the Holocaust was a completely different level. However, anti-Semitism still exists today, and it's still a very good reason for the existence of a Jewish state with a Jewish minority. A majority, I'm sorry. So there's one place where every Jew around the world, if he's suffering anti-Semitism just because he's Jewish, can come and be 100% sure that he'll be free from anti-Semitism. The worst anti-Semitic, most violent, worst anti-Semitic attack in the history of the United States happened this year in Pittsburgh. So this is very alive and real. The Anti-Defamation League said in 2017, anti-Semitism grew by 70%. Anti-Semitic attacks in the United States and on university campuses by 95%. So you can't at one time say, well, anti-Semitism really isn't such a really big problem today, and well, does the Jewish state really need to exist? Many of the same proponents of anti-Semitism are themselves justifying the existence of a Jewish state, because as long as anti-Semitism exists, we need a home for the Jewish people that maintains a Jewish majority. I think that the phenomenon which you describe is very accurate, and I think it creates a huge challenge for our diplomatic community. We mentioned earlier the nation-state law, which maybe many of the viewers which support the idea of a Jewish and democratic state say, what is this law and why is it necessary? But the biggest proponents that I saw against the law or condemning the law around the world were the Jewish community, actually. I think it's important to say specifically regarding that law, by the way, that it really didn't change anything. So it was a declaratory law that took other laws that already existed within Israel and brought them together in one declaratory law. It would be, if we compare it to the United States, like passing a law today that says the United States was founded on Judeo-Christian principles. Sunday will be the national day of rest. The Christian holidays will be national holidays. English will be the national language. These are things that already exist within the United States. And the Knesset did the same thing in Israel. Okay, we already said in our Declaration of Independence that the state of Israel would be a state for Jewish immigration, that Hebrew would be our national language, that the Jewish holidays would be our national holidays. So it didn't really change anything. But I want to say to Jewish viewers out there that may feel uncomfortable with this idea of a Jewish nation law, that at the end of the day, even if it strengthened the Jewish character of the state of Israel, that's actually good for our minorities. Because according to Judaism, we have to recognize the rights of our minorities and treat them with equality and with justice, and to avoid unbalanced scales, etc. This is the only reason why the state of Israel is the only democratic, fair state in the Middle East. It's because of Jewish values. So there's no danger there in reinforcing the Jewish character of the state of Israel. It's actually good for our minorities, and that's something the Jewish communities around the world should recognize and support. I just want to say that I would respectfully disagree with the opinion that Israel is the most dangerous place for Jews on planet Earth. I think it's the safest place for Jews. In fact, violent crime in Israel is lower on average than the safest cities in Europe and the United States. Because we've been dealing with terrorism for so many years and so on.
And life expectancy is much better than many other places.
Absolutely. But to come back to the issue.
Unfortunately, this is all the time that we have for today. I'd like to thank Ambassador Ayalon, Mr. Oren, and Advocate Myers for being here, and we'll discuss this topic in the future again. And I'd like to thank our viewers as well, and we will see you next time.
You just watched TV7 Jerusalem Studio. We encourage you to pray for the challenges raised in today's program. If you were blessed by our production, please consider supporting TV7 Israel. The details of our respective bank accounts for donations from Europe and the United States appear on the screen. Your generosity allows us to continue to serve God's calling, to broadcast content that truly matters through TV7 Israel from Jerusalem.